The story of the night for the Dolphins is unfortunately Tua being forced out of the game in the third quarter with a concussion. Let's just start this with what Mike McDaniel had to say after the game on Tua in a really scary situation.
Right now, I'm not really. It's more about, getting a proper procedural evaluation tomorrow and taking it one day at a time. The furthest thing from my mind is, what is the timeline? I want to know. We just need to evaluate, and I'm just worried about my my teammate, and like the rest of the guys are. But we'll get more information tomorrow, and then take it day by day from there.
All right. So first off, let's just sort of say this, and I think you heard it. I think Mike McDaniel had the exact right tone there, and I'll just echo that. I know I speak for everyone here on the show. Like, the biggest concern, obviously, is for Tua Tagovailoa as a person, as a human being, as somebody with friends and family and teammates that all care about him deeply. Like, we want him to get better. We want his health to be okay, and so I just want to sort of start there, because the fact of the matter is that if Tua is going to miss time, there is a fantasy football implication to that, and we are a fantasy football show, so we've got to talk about that. But I just want to reference that to start off, because the fact is that Tua is a person first, and I don't want to be dismissive of that. But at the end of the day, again, we're a fantasy show, and there are fantasy implications to a quarterback of one of the best offenses in football if he potentially misses time, guys.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to talk about, obviously, and echo everything that you said. I hope that he gets better. It's bigger than football, obviously. We'll talk about the less important stuff and the ramifications from a fantasy perspective, but yeah, all our thoughts with Tua.
Without a doubt. I agree with you guys, and I think, when you look at this situation now, you do have to talk about, what this offense looks like and what it did look like. And this is a weird night where De'Von Achane gets 22 carries. That's not normal in this situation. He was in there at the end of the game. He caught the ball a lot. I mean, this is no Raheem Mostert in this game.
Let's talk about Achane in a second. The only other thing I want to say about Tua, and then we'll wrap up this conversation, is we don't know, right? I mean, the positives here.
Mike McDaniel didn't know.
McDaniel didn't know, as you saw there. The positives here is that it's the Thursday night game. We've got 10 days until we know, until there's a decision to be made about who the starting quarterback of the Dolphins will be in Week 3, and we'll have plenty of time as news comes out about what Miami is going to do, and then once whatever that decision is, then we'll be able to talk about what the fantasy ramifications are, if there are any, in terms of what happens at the quarterback position for Miami. But again, sort of the only last thing I want to just say on Tua, which is, it's awful to see for any player, but obviously given the history with Tua, that he's suffered so many concussions in the past, this is crazy. I wonder, guys, and I don't mean to derail us entirely, but I just want to bring this up. I wonder if this hastens the use of the what are the names of the helmets? The ones that have been used in the
Guardian caps?
The Guardian caps, thank you. I wonder if, because they've been using them in the preseason, and there's been talk about it, and it's they're sort of funny looking, but they definitely do, reduce head injury, including concussions. And so I wonder if something like this on a national stage to a player as beloved as Tua, I wonder if that sort of hastens that conversation and hey, maybe we should think about using these during the regular season.
Yep, Jonathan Taylor used it in the preseason,
right.
And who cares if they look funny? If they're going to extend
help
the quality of your life, then absolutely.
1,000%. We should honestly, hey, producer Steven, do me a favor. Can we get some Guardian caps for the wall over here? Let's show some support for the Guardian caps.
We'll do a whole show with Guardian caps.
Yeah, exactly. If we can get a Guardian cap, I will make this promise right now that Jay Crouch will wear it for the entire show.
Entire season.
Let's not get crazy.
Or for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
sure. We're in the shower.
Listen, well, you got 3 young kids jumping all over you. Sure. We need to protect you.
Could help you.
All right, De'Von Achane, who was quote unquote a game time decision coming into this game. Mostert had been ruled out. Achane was legitimately listed as questionable. We're going to test him out pregame. Winds up with 29 touches, a career high. Just a monster game, over 150 total yards. He does get the 1 touchdown for the Dolphins. He plays 63% of the snaps. It's the second highest of his career. Also almost a 20% target share. He's second highest on the team here. 7 receptions in both of his games this year. The fact that he's being used in the passing attack, I think is, if you were drafting today, guys, De'Von Achane is a first-round pick, given this usage.
Yeah, because, I mean, you can't predict when, unfortunately, Raheem Mostert will go down and how it'll ultimately kind of tailor the offense. They clearly don't think Jalen Wright is ready for that kind of split. Jeff Wilson, they don't give the ball to a ton. He plays some special teams. So if you knew he was going to catch the ball like this, I think that's the difference, because you know the kind of rushing yards he can give you, Jay. I mean, that's obviously a totally different factor into his fantasy production.
And the idea that, by the way, that, I mean, he was, to your point, Connor, you said this earlier, like, this is a blowout.
Yeah.
This was not a close game at
take him
all,
out of the game.
and they didn't take him out of the game.
That's the best.
That's not good, by the way.
No,
that's very
terrible. It's indefensible. But from fantasy value perspective, that's the best indicator for Achane, is that when he's coming into a game with an injury question mark and they're down by 21 points, they're still running him repeatedly, so they didn't need to keep him. They didn't feel compelled to keep him in cotton wool. It reminded me of this game 2 years ago when Josh Jacobs was like questionable hamstring tightness against the Seahawks, and then he went 33 for 229 and he walked it off in overtime with a 70-yard touchdown that no one in America saw because the broadcast feed cut out. But it reminded me of that. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's really hurt. 22 carries with De'Von Achane. But no, he looked. I mean, talent is always there. Clearly, it's about the usage, and it seems like there is a chance that he could get workhorse usage. And he's already a fantasy asset last year, touching the ball like 10 times a game.
I know we don't want to project a lot forward for this offense until we know more. I think what we can confidently say is Achane's workload is going to be even heavier when there's a new quarterback under center for this team.
If and when there's a new quarterback under center for this team, you would downgrade everyone. It's a tough game for Achane would get a bigger workload, and you would certainly downgrade the pass catchers. Tough game for Tyreek Hill, as we joked about. Like, I can't believe it, they're betting the under of 54 yards, but that's exactly what ended up happening. Just 24 yards. He does get a rush attempt. 16% target share was the third lowest in a game since he joined the Dolphins as well. Only his third game with under 10 fantasy points. Like his third game ever with single-digit fantasy points since he joined Miami. He's Tyreek Hill. What are you going to do? You're always going to start him as long as he's healthy. But just disappointing game for both him and Jalen Waddle, who I thought was going to have a better day. Yeah. I actually, I didn't give this out on the show, but I bet the over on Waddle's 46.5 receiving yards. Again, thinking how the Bills had struggled against the slot in Week 1, and I thought that he'd have nice success in this one, and seemed like he was getting there, but ultimately ends up with 41. That doesn't cash.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.